The Atheist Debates Patreon project presents, will the liberalization of religion be the death of religion, or what helps keep it alive? Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. I'm getting over some lost voice stuff and some annoying things with YouTube's just not allowing uploads right now. I've just recently joined TikTok, and while I haven't posted anything on TikTok yet, people have been sending me things, and someone sent this to me and really wanted this to be on the channel just to get my opinion. And there's a quick TikTok, and once I'm on there, I'll put a link to it there. But the question was, will the liberalization of religion be the death of religion, or what helps it stay alive? And I think this is a great question, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. But also, I'm interested in what your thoughts are. So if you have comments on whether or not you think religions becoming more liberal are going to kill it off or help it survive, post down in the comment section. Now, I'm going to do this mostly from a standpoint of Christianity, some version of Christianity, the religion that dominates in my part of the world and that I have the most experience with. But we can also look at this as in a general sense. I think that the answer is that it will help the religion stay alive, but not as it was. It will fundamentally change the religion. Each religion, as it becomes more liberal, is no longer the same thing. You could get into sort of ship of Theseus analysis about whether or not it's the same ship that it was. It wasn't. It never is. Everything is always changing. Christianity today is not the same as Christianity 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, etc. The world is different. Religions are always changing, and they almost always tend to get more liberal on the whole as society gets more liberal on the whole, even while there is fundamentalist pushback. And what we've seen with trends for religiosity is a decline along the mean, but it vacillates. You know, religion's on decline, and then something terrible will happen, like 9/11. After 9/11, there was a rise in religious attendance, and then it's dropped off over the 20 years that have followed. So to some extent, I think it's fair to say that it will both be the death of religion. It'll be the death of those aspects of religion that are problematic, and it will also be what helps keep it alive. Because I know of liberal churches, LGBTQ-friendly churches, all around the country. I've visited some of these. Those views kill off the problematic fundamentalist views that we're generally opposed to and morph what is left into something less problematic. And I think the secondary question to this that I have to ask is, if what I suppose is true, and that it will kill off the bad version of religion and let a less bad version continue, how do I feel about that? Well, I still care whether or not the beliefs are true. And so while you may have a wonderful, happy, joyous, gay-friendly church, if you're still teaching that there's a God that people need to love and worship, or they'll burn forever in hell, or if they want the good afterlife, or that there's someone up there paying attention to what goes on here, and they have a plan, and they're willing to answer and help, that there's someone up there who loves and cares about us and interacts. I have objections to all of those things because it helps keep us from focusing on how to fix those problems ourselves. One of the foundational views of humanism is that whether or not there is a God, humanity is, as far as we can tell, left down here to solve our problems ourselves. And we cannot appeal to external sources to solve the problems for us. And so we have to work to find ways to work together to fix those issues. So what do people want from religion? I can tell you this: they don't want the truth. That is undeniable, I think, and probably something that maybe I'll look forward to debating in the near future. Because if you want the truth, you don't wind up accepting a religion. And if religions were about the truth, they would never change, except for when the truth changes. You know, like, how many fingers am I holding up? How many fingers am I holding up? How many fingers am I holding up? As the truth changes, that. But when you get to truths about reality, about whether or not there's a God, about whether or not there's something to be saved from or saved to, that's just true or not true. And so if the motivation for joining a religion or believing a religion was about the truth, it'd never change, at least not in the ways that it has. People are generally looking for comfort, community, acceptance, hope, and even false hope is often welcome. When your life feels hopeless, when you think that there's nobody who cares about you, when you think that things are not going to improve at all and that life is just going to get worse, even false hope can provide comforting. And if you can create a compelling narrative and it can build a community where there's other people who agree with this, I mean, you're not going to sell a religion where there's nobody. You got to get a couple people started on this in order to gradually build things up. But if you have a compelling account that seems to provide comfort and community and acceptance and hope, that can become very popular. Because let's face it, the Bible, in the same way that it's endorsed in slavery and misogyny and all kinds of other things, the Bible is very anti-LGBTQ. It is not friendly, probably slightly friendlier to lesbians than it is to gay men. Doesn't really mention trans people because the concept didn't exist, but has verses in it that are very clearly, the fundamentalist would look at it as, well, if a man puts on a woman's clothes or wears the clothing of a woman and stuff like that. And, my trans friends in LGBTQ-friendly churches would say, I'm not a man putting on women's clothes. And I agree with them. They're a woman putting on women's clothing. And women's rights and trans rights are human rights. But that's not what the book means. That's not the concepts that's there. And that's not what the people advocating and pushing for it are doing. And so in order to have a liberal, modern church that doesn't have all the baggage of fundamentalism, you have to toss that stuff out, and you have to be very creative in how you're going to interpret certain things as to what's of value. We've seen this many times. Muslims in the United States are not typically as fundamentalist as their brethren in the Middle East. The society around the religion helps pollute it, which is why there is specific fundamentalist pushback in the UK and elsewhere, where a significant Muslim population arises, and then they start to see, hey, we're not the way we used to be, and our people are not advocating for the same things they used to. They're getting soft, they're getting fuzzy, they're getting tattoos, they're maybe a little friendlier to the LGBTQ community than what we think the Quran suggests we should be. And so you start getting pushback for Sharia law and things like that. It's what we've seen from Westboro Baptist Church here. They're so, I don't even know what the right word is, as they're incredibly litigious and seem to be out to get a lawsuit at all odds or at all opportunities. But with the messages that they put up that are very unfriendly to the LGBTQ community, Westboro Baptist Church is the fundamentalist pushback. But Westboro is like a family or two and a small little community of lawyers. Most of the churches that you're going to find in most cities are going to be much, much better than that. I was at a Baptist church downtown here in Austin. I posted a picture of it. That church believes in science, that Black Lives Matters, that all love is love. They were saying it's the most liberal Baptist church I could ever imagine being in. And as someone who grew up in a Southern Baptist church that wasn't even the strictest, I was allowed to play cards and do magic with cards, and I was allowed to go to dances and stuff at school. There are Baptist churches that you're not drinking, you're not dancing, and you're not doing anything fun. And you pretend not to recognize each other when you're out on the town. But to watch a Baptist church be much more liberalized was eye-opening and interesting to me. And while I welcome the liberalization of Christianity, I would love to no longer have to deal with the bigoted aspects of it. I would love for that part to die off. What remains is still a problem. And so, yeah, the liberalization of religion will be the death of that version of religion, and it will be what allows a different version of that religion to persist. But that different version, while better and less problematic, is still a problem because people are advocating for something that they cannot demonstrate is true. They're getting people to make decisions, important decisions about their lives, and in some cases about other people's lives as well. This is the danger, because then you get this thought in your head that, well, I'm not like those people. Those people are ridiculous. They think the earth's 4,000 to 10,000 years old. They think they were talking snakes. They think that Adam and Eve were real people, that they ate from the forbidden fruit. They think that slavery was okay. They think this, they think this, they think this. And yet, ultimately, the foundation of both religions is identical. They're pointing to the same book. And once you, and if you do that, if you say, this is our holy book, how do you stop a plain reading where it says, if a man lies with another man, they've committed an abomination or deserving of death? You have to go to something that's less specific. This is what I've had with the slavery debate that I just did as well. The rules are simple. When there's a clear rule, the specific overrides the general, and the new overrides the old. A new general rule isn't likely to override an old specific rule. It can, but it needs to have just enough specificity as a general rule to say, that one's gone. So you can't say, well, our understanding from the New Testament is that, being gay is just an obstacle God gives to people. Well, that's still pretty crappy. Crappy as a thought from human beings, and crappy as a condition if it comes from a God. But it's an interesting question. What do we think is likely to happen? I think it's a little complex, and that it will eventually help the worst parts of religion fade away. But I would like to see us build a world, a rational world, a humanist world, where the needs that people have that lead them to accept religions that they can't demonstrate are true are met by other communities, where we are doing good work and letting people know, hey, this is the reality of life. And whether or not there is a God, we've got to work together to do this. And if you're going to appeal to your God when talking to someone about hope, you might be doing them a disservice, because if you're wrong, you've given them false hope. And we should be working on real hope. We should be working on scientific solutions to medical problems. We should be working on philosophical structures that tie us to reality in a way that looks at the value of game theory, of cooperation, of what's in our best interest. Because we live in a world where there are facts, and the facts don't care what your opinion is. The facts don't care whether or not you think there's a God looking out for you to protect you from the facts. The odds of X happening are the odds of X happening, no matter how much your lucky rabbit foot, lucky socks, or fanciful notions of a God would try to sway you otherwise. So I'm in favor of the liberalization of religion. I'm also in favor of the end of religion unless it can demonstrate that it's true. So far, that hasn't happened. And that's why I'm going to keep asking people what they believe and why, and how they can demonstrate that it's true, why anyone else should be convinced as they are. Anyway, interesting question. I'll see you all later, and maybe on TikTok as well. Bye-bye.